I just finished watching Tony Bellew's final public workout ahead of his rematch with David Haye on Saturday. So I want to give you my impressions. I thought Tony Bellew looked very sharp on the pads. He was throwing very nice, fast, snappy combinations up close and also at long range. And that to me could be key. Tony Bellew is going to need, in my view, more than one game plan. He's going to need plan A, plan B, and maybe even plan C if he's going to win this rematch. Because I don't think David Haye is going to box the same way he did in the first fight. I think David Haye's tactics for this rematch are going to be completely different. I think he's going to use his reach advantage in this rematch, something he didn't do first time around. He's not going to be lunging in the way he was first time around against Tony Bellew so much. He's going to try and force Tony Bellew to come to him. He's going to try and frustrate Tony Bellew behind the jab at long range. And then force Bellew to come to him and then try and walk him onto something. I believe that's what David Haye is going to do. And Tony Bellew is going to need to adjust his own game plan if David Haye employs the tactics that I just described. If you watch the first fight, yeah, and I implore all of you to go and do this if you doubt what I'm about to say. If you watch the first fight, after the first couple rounds where David Haye was lunging in, he settled down a little bit and he started boxing at long range. And at long range, Tony Bellew was throwing hardly anything. Why? Because David Haye had the longer reach. Tony Bellew knew that David Haye had to lunge in before he could catch David Haye with anything clean. Lunge in with that big right hand. When they were at long range and David Haye was jabbing, Bellew didn't want to throw anything and Haye was getting the better of it. In this rematch, if David Haye, who is much lighter this time around, employs the tactics that I expect him to employ, and I think he should employ, keeping it long, frustrating Bellew, Bellew's going to need to switch up the tactics. And as far as I'm aware, as far as I can see, the only other tactics which could work for him in that scenario, if he's getting outboxed on the outside, is coming forward and trying to apply pressure. But that comes with its own risks. If he comes forward, he risks walking on to one of David Haye's big punches. And I don't think David Haye is going to need to load up that much to hurt Tony Bellew if Bellew's coming forward, because it doubles the impact when your opponent's coming forward. David Haye, at least judging by the public workout, doesn't really want to fully extend his right hand because I think he's concerned about his bicep. But he may not need to fully extend it if Tony Bellew's coming at him. He can, shorten it slightly and still have plenty of power on it. So Bellew's going to need to ask himself the question, if this scenario I'm describing unfolds, Bellew's going to need to ask himself the question in his head, am I just going to resign myself to a 12-round points defeat? Am I going to sit here getting outboxed, hoping that David Haye injures something? Or am I going to gamble and risk getting knocked out in order to get to David Haye? That's the question he's going to have to ask himself in his head if this scenario unfolds. I think it would be unwise of Tony Bellew to do what he did against Stevenson, where he just continued to sit on the outside and allow himself to be outboxed. I think it would be unwise for him to do that if he's hoping to win the fight anyway, because he may be thinking, okay, let me just keep on waiting. Eventually Haye will get tired. Eventually his knee will give out or something will give out. David Haye's tactics, if he employs the tactics I've just described, are going to put less stress on his body and therefore lessen the chances that he's going to get injured again. So I don't think it's sensible for Tony Bellew to be waiting for Haye to injure himself. I think he's going to have to be proactive. He's going to have to go forward, take risks, and try and make something happen. And that will play into David Haye's hands to a certain extent. But if he's getting outboxed on the outside, to me, that's his best chance of winning. So yeah, those were my thoughts of Tony Bellew on the pads. In the public workout, he looked very sharp. He looked good. But David Haye can negate all that just by using the reach advantage. Yeah? He can negate all those fast hands that Bellew has shown and all that sharpness just by keeping it long and using those long arms, not allowing Bellew to get in range. Let me know how you felt about Tony Bellew's public workout in the comment section below, whether you agree or disagree. You know, I'm not Nostradamus at the end of the day. I don't know for sure that David Haye is going to employ those kind of tactics, boxing at long range and being conservative. I don't know for sure. But that's what I think is most likely. And I think the most likely outcome, not by a long way, but I do think the most likely outcome is that David Haye wins on points. That's my prediction. That was my prediction, you know, a week ago when I made my prediction video, and that's still my prediction now, David Haye on points. So let me know how you feel in the comment section, people. It's happening. I'm out.